as a programmer, I guess, for Guitar Hero.
Like, okay,
Let me see. What?
we have been putting some serious time here.
And then a mussel and tomato sorbet.
Whirligig.
We tend to talk about a lot of the music in pretty visual terms. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Since we started in like a fine art school, I mean, they've sort of been twisted together from the very beginning. I guess like I grew up in Maine and pre-internet, so finding out about a lot of like underground music and things like that was a little bit more challenging. And a lot of times, like when you did find this record by some obscure band, like the cover art might be the only, or whatever the packaging was, might be the only thing that provided any sort of clues to this, you know, something that seemed otherwise pretty mysterious. And since I've worked with Eric and my brother Eric and Aaron for so long, I feel like a lot of times the types of discussions and comments that come up in our practice resonate with me when I'm working on my own. Since our music is sort of has so much to do with using, well, it goes through ways, but a lot of times it's using kind of like rigid electronic things, but still trying to communicate like a real organic or more organic or human version of it. So the idea of change, I guess, is something I think about a lot, and the idea of things being in flux. So a lot of the two-dimensional and three-dimensional things that I work on, I feel like I think of as little, almost like static animations, or like if you're just taking one cell from a sequence of things happening. You know, when you watch a commercial and they have animations that they show to illustrate the science behind how the scrubbing bubbles work or how this thing is pH balanced. There's commercials that present totally abstract, like nonsensical illustrations of how their product works, and I guess for me, like, that's sort of what I try to do with drawings and sculptures and things like that, is just come up for different explanations for how they function. Aaron had written from the band had written something once about like using this crap to reclaim a commercial landscape. I guess, I mean, most of the stuff that and same with the band, I feel like most of the things that we work on and that I work on independently, I feel like are about trying to make sense of everything that goes on sort of around me. Like I realize I don't know how most things in my life function, from like a telephone to a computer to the plumbing to the wiring, and there's something that seems kind of empowering about just being like inventing your own logic behind things, even if it doesn't hold up to science or something like that. But I guess that's where the potential kind of term comes in with a lot of the titling, is that if you could sort of like look at something like an object long enough so that you can sort of strip away the values or the functions of it, then you can kind of like reinvent it in this way. I mean, I usually use some found elements, whether it's like found imagery or objects or things like that. Some periods was the only way I could afford to really continue making stuff, and then I guess I'd been making collages for so many years and stuff that it just seemed like natural for the more sculptural things to have some of that characteristic too. For a long time, I think, you know, it was difficult to even get shows playing the type of music that we play. Or I just always started to get a chip on my shoulder that people thought that we were just like going up and like jamming the whole time, and just sort of, so I think we became more and more interested in sort of taking those elements but sort of bashing them into almost like a pop structure in a way. So a lot of times people who've never seen us, like the first time they'll start to get it, and then the second time they realize that things are happening in sequence and at the same time at each night. But I don't know, I mean, at this point I felt like when we were basically playing with rock and roll instruments like drums, guitar, bass, and vocals, felt like we got really interested in making it sound sort of like broken machines, and now I felt like we're using broken machines to try to make it sound like 50s rock and roll or something like that.